I'm Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power, and coming up next on WAYO LP Rochester is The Sound of Tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about the Queen. We have a controversy. We're going to be talking about some censorship issues. We've got a few of those like fluffy little life kit NPR bits, and maybe a little bit on PTSD. Who knows? We're trying to pack this show. Probably won't get to it all. But first,
welcome everyone to another episode of Ross and Heather's Super Secret Celebrity Smackdown for the Gown.
Winners of Ross and Heather's Super Secret Celebrity Smackdown for the Gown will win a gift certificate to Kohl's, expiring soon, an assortment of lightly used makeup brushes from the House of Zykowski, and a cash prize of $36,000. Oh, no, sorry, that's a typo. A cash prize of $36.
Which you could hypothetically use to buy the aforementioned gown. Now, here's our first contestant.
Hi, everyone. For my performance, I will be performing a lip sync to Sheb Woosley's 1961 classic, Skin Tight Pin-Striped Purple Pedal Pushers.
God, I really feel like I know that voice.
It does sound so familiar.
Could it be Meryl Streep?
Similar range and versatility for sure.
Oh, but no, it's not quite. Contestant, could you tell us maybe a little more about your chosen selection?
It's all pretty much there in the title. I really don't know how much more specific I can be.
God, so familiar.
It really is. I'm almost getting Taylor Swift.
Oh, yes. But
this one's
with a
tough.
little bit of like Harry Styles, maybe?
This one's tough.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's introduce our next contestant and then we'll circle back.
Will our next contestant please come to the stage?
Well, hello, everybody.
Wow! I know that voice too.
It's me, Cease and Desist Bear.
Okay.
Yeah, so, Cease and Desist Bear, you're not supposed to just tell people your name.
That's the whole point.
Oh, how strange. I'm sure that's not what my instruction sheet says.
I really can't believe that anyone here at Ross and Heather's Super Secret Celebrity Smackdown for the Gown would have given you an instruction sheet that says to reveal your identity immediately.
I can't believe that anyone here at Ross and Heather's Super Secret Celebrity Smackdown for the Gown would have given you an instruction sheet. We don't even have a printer. Well, isn't that a funny old thing? Would you mind taking a look at it?
Sure. Just bring it over here.
Hey, you know what? This doesn't look like instructions. Oh, see, it's not. Because Cease and Desist Bear says, you've been served.
What?
Bet you'll think twice before violating the intellectual property rights of RuPaul, World of Wonder International LLC, or any of its affiliate entities. Welp. Time for me to go. I sure have enjoyed our time together. See you in court.
Oh, that bear is the worst.
But I think the other one was maybe Kesha?
I was thinking Elizabeth Warren.
God, I guess we'll never know.
Anyone know where there's more toilet paper?
We'll just never know. Hey everybody, I'm Ross Johnson, your favorite co-host.
And I'm Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power. You're listening to The Sound of Tomorrow on WAYO, LP Rochester, or on your podcatcher of choice.
That's a place. Where there shows. Another one for the t-shirt.
Such good times. I love how the print just wraps around and around.
I like how I've never done this before, clearly. And
we were off last week.
Yeah, this is my first day on the radio. So
yeah, and today we're just off, as usual. So, Ross, our skit was a very good skit, and I very much enjoyed it, and I'm sure that the Space Cadets did too. It was kind of a
I have notes, she's about to say.
Well, I have notes on the actual RuPaul's Drag Race Secret Celebrity Smackdown for the Crown.
Oh, sure. Okay.
But my biggest note that I have to mention is the controversy that I wanted to tell you about. So I
Yes.
happened to be catching up on RuPaul's Drag Race Secret Celebrity Smackdown for the Crown
Not the
last
name, but
night.
okay. Go for it. Yeah.
Close enough.
Make it work.
Close
Making it
enough.
work.
I was I've taken to, because you know how I'm very healthy and everything. I've taken to, when I'm watching something where there are commercials, I do planks during commercials.
Sure.
So I was enjoying planking. And VH1 started playing a freaking Chick-fil-A commercial
Oh
during a
no.
RuPaul's Drag Race property.
That's weird. And so that's the that's VH1.
It's the VH1 app.
No. That's no
And they
good.
do commercials, and they'll do them for like laundry detergent or cars or whatever.
Right.
Um, Chick-fil-A. For anybody out
That's
there listening who doesn't know, Chick-fil-A is bigot chicken, and
bad.
it's not a good place to go if you believe in LGBTQIA rights at all.
Yeah, just generally bad. And for me, it hits, Chick-fil-A hits the sweet spot of a thing I don't like anyway.
Yes, and I can still boycott it. I don't even eat
Right.
chicken, but I
It's
can still
so,
be outspokenly boycotting Chick-fil-A.
no, and it's just my favorite. That's my
Yeah.
favorite. That's just such a sweet spot in life.
Mm,
But yeah, that's weird. I don't see, I watch it on, like, well, satellite, whatever. So the channel, the not over the air, but I don't know what you call that anymore. The
I
channel,
think
the TV
that's a
channel,
channel,
VH1.
yeah.
And I don't know. I always DVR it, and then I skip the commercials entirely. So,
Right.
and I don't really notice them. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of. I don't know if it's. I think generally what I found is the streaming version commercials and like the TV version commercials aren't. There's not really a relationship there. So I don't know that it would be the same. But that is weird, and I'm sure it's probably. No, that's interesting because I mean, VH1 has, I think VH1 still owns
Yeah.
Logo. So you'd think, I mean,
Well, and
like the,
VH1 owns the VH1 app, so VH1 has some kind of control over the advertising content.
yeah, I just think like VH1, I don't know if they have a lot of other gay stuff. So maybe it's just not something that's on anyone's radar there, but I
But
don't know.
it's on everyone's radar, though. It's not like this is a secret.
No,
I
but I mean,
was,
most people don't care. Like most people who are buying advertising or selling advertising aren't really going to care. And most channels are going to show, like, I think most channels are not going to not show a Chick-fil-A ad if Chick-fil-A wants to pay for it. But you'd think,
I feel like someone really should have been paying like the smallest amount of attention about that playing during a RuPaul's Drag Race program.
yeah, agreed.
And I almost feel, I rarely feel moved to write a letter, but I kind of feel like I should write a letter.
You're on paper.
Yeah,
I think you should.
yeah, and
I think
mail
you
it to
should.
VH1.
I think you should
Dear
fax.
VH1,
I think you should fax it.
I'll telex it.
You know what? Just do what everybody else does and do like a sassy tweet about it and tag them.
That's
And
right. I should social media it. That's the way to do it. Thank
it's so much.
you.
It's so much easier.
You're right. I don't tweet really. I was tweeting very briefly.
Well, this could be your viral moment.
It could be. Yeah, because I was very much taken aback.
Yeah.
Talk about just tone deaf.
Yeah.
Like I had to look up from my plank to make sure I had really heard what I thought I heard.
You had to get
And I was
that in
like,
there. You had
yes.
to get that in there one more time, didn't you?
Well, just have I mentioned I've taken up planking again?
Oh
It's just
no, I
good for your
didn't
core.
hear about that. Yeah, no, I didn't know
Yeah,
about that.
it's really good for your core. I do
Wow.
it during my gym time.
Sure.
I work out.
Sure. Which is most of the day, because
I
you have to be
wish.
fit. So,
I wish.
good for you.
All right. So sassy tweet. Maybe you could do a sassy tweet. You're a sassier tweeter than I.
I am a sassy tweet, but I'm all me. I'm all the thirst traps these days. I don't know if this would fit
That's
my
all you could
brand
do.
anymore.
Get one of you planking,
Oh, that's true.
and then you can talk about it.
Me blanking while I'm watching.
I would be thirsty while I'm watching RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I don't know how I'm gonna. I haven't roped my husband into any of these thirst trap pictures, so I don't know how I'm gonna. I don't know how I'm gonna. I guess I'll have to set up. I guess I'll have to set up like a stand and a timer because I'm not sure how I'm gonna take
Yeah.
a selfie of myself planking otherwise. But I don't. I definitely don't think I can do it with one arm. So it's gonna be.
I'll try to remember what I'm planking tonight to see if I can take a picture of myself.
All right. Just if you do,
I think I
write it
probably couldn't
down.
keep good form.
Right. Like write it down so I know what you did.
Yeah, I will.
All right. Or I'll
I'm
just come
not
over and
sure
take
I
a
could
picture of
keep
you.
the form. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could come over and take a picture.
All right. Hey
Tell me how
Heather,
my form is. Yeah, Ross.
how you doing?
I'm doing
So
great.
I want to talk about this maybe briefly, maybe not. I so the this has been it's been an interesting week on social media, I think. Because in general, well, in the news and social media, because of course, over the past week, if you're listening to this in the relatively present times, the Queen Elizabeth II of the longest reigning monarch of England and the Commonwealth, etc., whatever it's called, whatever the title is, United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. It's a whole thing, whatever that title is. Those of us who hung out at her house just called her, the Queen. So, but she she passed away at 96, and it's been so. I don't know. I don't know if you have any feelings about this. It has been really interesting, really interesting. I think in the news and social media because um what I have seen is like it's a it's an it's a really interesting it's a really interesting overlap of like people who have genuine affection for this person and are a little sad at least in the
Hmm.
abstract sense of like here's a person who's always been around like for my entire life versus and then versus like really loud people who have been very angry who
Hmm.
have been very like sort of the I hope this person rots in hell type of stuff. And then this this like voice that's somewhere coming from somewhere else that's trying to be like, hey, maybe this is a good time to talk about colonialism and monarchy.
Uh-huh.
And that voice like just getting completely drowned out and washed away. I don't know. I don't know. There are a few things here, and I've said a few things. I don't know. Do you have strong feelings about the Queen of England?
I I don't have strong feelings. I think the thing that concerned me most was the article that I saw about what would happen to her dogs.
Okay, what was that article?
It was just something in NPR because she had 4 dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess people had questions about where would her dogs be
Oh,
taken
because
care of.
they're going to her son. So
Well, two of
or,
them are going to her son. I'm not sure where the other two are going, but she had some assistants who helped with her dogs as well.
okay,
So the dogs are fine.
yeah, I think the dogs are
Um,
fine.
and I figured they would be. I didn't think, the queen would pass away and all of a sudden the dogs are just like let run around London.
You know what though? You don't. I mean, in so I'm a history guy. You say that, but like in the history of monarchy, there are a lot of times when you have a king or queen who is like all powerful and feared and wealthy and everything, and then and like has all these plans and like this is what's going to happen when I die, this is what you're going to follow through, and this is going to, and everybody's like yes absolutely, there is no, yes, we are scared of you, we believe you, we like you, you're the king or queen, great. And then the second they die, it's like forget, okay, boom, we will dump the body in the river. And then we will so I don't think that's happening here. But it's not unprecedented.
That's true. I guess in this situation, I was not worried about her dogs.
Right.
I didn't think that anything bad would happen to them, but I was pleased to know that people were thinking of them. Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that, the situation that you describe, and I don't. I've, a human being has passed away.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like dance around, I guess. I do kind of agree with the voice, the little middle one that keeps going, like, hey, maybe we could talk about like monarchy and colonialism and stuff. This would be an appropriate topic at the moment.
Yeah. I,
I
I
haven't seen a lot of great discourse about that, but I have seen that voice.
yeah, I have not seen a lot of great discourse about that. And I think it's a really good time for that. I don't feel as strong. I feel like being a, you know, being a lefty liberal type person, I should feel more strongly about monarchy. But in the context of modern Great Britain, I sort of don't care. I feel like it's their thing. And if they want to do it, that's fine. I feel like in Great Britain, and I've seen a lot of Americans like, they have this monarchy, this fascist monarchy which is kind of a misunderstanding of what modern British monarchy is, which is basically a tourist attraction. That pays off technically. I mean, that's the sort of value for dollar at this point that
Mm-hmm.
sort of justifies the monarchy, is that this is a money making operation and it brings in money to the country, and that's part of, aside from the history and the affection a lot of people still have for the monarchy, it is a money making for all of the for all the things we talk about that are fair about this family sort of accumulating a lot of wealth and having a lot of sort of undue privilege just from the fact of their birth. um, they are bringing in money, so there's something to that. But I also feel like the Queen of England could not have wiped out abortion in Great Britain even if she wanted to. Whereas like Amy Coney Barrett can do that. A person who was appointed to a lifetime term by someone who's probably, if there's any fairness in the world, will be in prison as a
Mm-hmm.
as a traitor for hoarding and selling nuclear secrets, is going to continue to be have this lifetime appointment as one of the five people, if you're looking at the majority of the court, who can wipe out any rights in the country they want at
Mm-hmm.
any time. So for Americans to get huffy about like this monarch who had no power really other than to like go and shake hands is, I don't know,
And meet
again,
people.
it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. And that's been my understanding kind of since I was like aware that Britain had a monarchy. People would say like, oh, but they're kind of figureheads.
Mm-hmm.
Then what's a figurehead? Well, they don't really have any political power. They're just kind of there because people like them,
Right.
or don't. But
I also think it's interesting, seeing so much of again, there were just a ton of memes and sort of this memification of the Queen's death, which again, people can have whatever feelings they want about the Queen. And I think there's, you know, a big part of her job was to represent the United Kingdom. Good, bad, whatever. That was like her one job. So for people to, see her as the face of colonialism, imperialism, all these things, I don't think that's unfair. I think it's also interesting that you have someone who, again, just saying it's interesting. We have a woman, um, the longest, I think, in probably in human history, the longest ruling. Again, if you even want to, ruling is not even the right word at this point, but the longest reigning, you know, woman of a whatever in, I think, human history, at least that we know about. And you have male politicians doing a lot of stuff for, yeah, a couple centuries before she was born, while she's alive. Um, but what I've seen since her death is she is responsible for all of it. All of it. I even saw people like angry about what she did with the potato famine in Ireland, which was like a long time before she was born.
I,
Um,
yeah, uh, wow. Wow. So I'll tell you, most days I don't have a very good grip on history, but
sure.
even I could tell you, like, no, not her. No, she didn't
Yeah.
do it. Nope. Nope.
Well, yeah, that
It,
and
and you're right. It's very interesting that this is a woman,
yes.
and there's all this. She did this. She did that.
And I think,
Hmm.
again, for people to be like, here's a monarch, here's an incredibly privileged person whose family has, I would say, certainly benefited from colonialism. I think part of this too is if you're a white person in the Western world, particularly a white person in the Western world, I think you have benefited from colonialism, whether you want to or not. I include
Mm-hmm.
myself there, willingly or
Me too.
unwillingly. So it also feels like a way of, I hate the phrase virtue signaling because, you know, I just don't think it's a fair, I just don't think it's ever a fair phrase, but it feels like a way of saying, oh, this is something separate from me. This is, we are going to put this all on this woman. We're going to bury it with her in her casket. And then we don't have to worry about it anymore. That's what it feels like in part to me. Um, and we've seen, we talk about the Bernie bros, and I feel like there's some of that phenomenon here of it's the woman's fault
Mm.
because that woman was not womanly enough or whatever to, do. It's, again, I'm throwing out a lot here. I know it's just, it's all been very, I think someone needs to write a book about it or a paper about it or something, because I think it's all been fascinating. And again, what I think has been lost is I think it's a good time to have a conversation about, like I said, with the monarchy part, I don't get so worked up about that. And I also feel like it's not, as an American, like I don't care. If you want to have a monarchy, great, go for it. Whatever. Doesn't affect my life in the least. you know, I'm I I enjoy, I enjoyed London very much as a tourist place and going to all the places. So
Mm-hmm.
fine. For me, it's a tourist thing, which is mostly where the money comes in. So like, I guess I'm doing my part for monarchy when I do that. But
It
the,
was neat to see.
yeah, and I also feel like people get huffy about the weird ceremonies and the things, but we all have that. I mean, I'm not a Christian. I do Christmas stuff. So
Yes.
having those ceremonies, I don't feel like I don't know that. I mean, things can, if they have when you start looking at like, where did this come from? Does it have, some things have very explicitly racist origins, or they're offensive to, you can find that in a ceremony and then you go, oh, maybe that's not great. But
Mm-hmm.
just something weird that we've always done that we still do because we're used to doing it, I don't
Yeah.
think that's necessarily harmful.
No, I think there are a lot of perfectly inert ceremonies that if
Hmm.
you look at them from outside, that particular tradition looks weird,
Right.
looks real, real weird. It's fine. It's not hurting anybody. It didn't come from a bad place. Leave it alone. Don't get so worked up over it. We
Yeah.
on the Sound of Tomorrow, we love to get worked up over things.
Oh yeah.
And even there are some things where we're like, why? It just looks weird. There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, and you don't, you always have to take a second, I think, to try to turn it around on yourself whenever you're like, that is so weird what they do.
Yeah,
It's like, well, I bet your stuff, I bet
that's the
everybody's
thing.
stuff looks weird to someone else,
Yeah. Yeah, I
Even,
mean, I'm very weird, so I have to be careful about saying what's weird of other people.
yeah, like I was talking about I was talking to my neighbor about something or other, and she's like, everybody lives their own way. And it's like, I think the things that I do in the course of my day, if my neighbors had the spy camera on or whatever, they'd think was very weird. There's a
Yeah.
lot of it that I'm sure they'd be like, why does he do that? I think there's stuff in the course of my day that I do that my husband probably thinks is incredibly weird. So, I try not to get too huffy about that. I don't know. I think it's an interesting time. Um, as a super ultra liberal leftist weenie, I have some respect for Queen Elizabeth. I think, we have such a, it's such a loud world. It's such an opinionated world. So to have someone who, for decades of her life, was like, I'm just going to kind of keep it quiet over here. I mean, the one thing the one thing we know she ever not necessarily spoke in public about, but was so incensed by that it got into the public, was over apartheid, and the fact that Margaret Thatcher and the British government weren't doing anything to stop apartheid, which is not the worst thing to get
Hmm.
upset about. And again, I think I I don't know. I think there's a whole discussion that needs to be had that we can't have because it's 2022, and people either want to have like a meme about it one way or another. And it's that part is sad to me because I think it's a perfectly reasonable time to discuss the legacy of colonialism. The complicated and the complicated legacy of colonialism. I mean, talking to, people were sort of, there was a lot of stuff about like, oh, I bet Indians are dancing in the street now. I mean, first of all, partition and Indian independence happened when she was like 5. So I don't know that you can pin all that on her. But again, it's, she's representing all of that. So I get it.
Hmm.
Um, but I think my experience, and I want to speak for my Indian friends, but I think my experience with my Indian friends and having conversations about that, just because I was always sort of curious, um, is it's complicated. I think colonialism is, I think we can put our foot down on it and say like it's bad.
Hmm.
The British
Yes.
Empire was bad.
Hmm.
But I think for a lot of Indians, it's also part of their history. It's part of, it's part of how they got from there to here. And I'm not
Hmm.
saying it was a necessary part or a good part, but I think they look at it with a little more nuance than, um, I think a lot of Indians see it as inseparable from where they are now. Good, bad,
Well,
mostly bad, but
it is
they're in
because it
agreement.
happened, and that's actually reality.
Yeah.
There's no
So
way
I
it can be undone.
so I think the discussion has to be more than like colonialism was bad, end of story. Let's not talk about it anymore. I think it's like it was bad. Let's talk about it and what we can do to, um, erase some of these. Not erase. You can't erase. Of course, you can. That's not the right word at all. Of course, you can't ever erase it. But I mean to sort of undo some of the damage and, see that countries who were robbed of resources and robbed of people and blah 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 are able to move forward. And I don't know that Americans get to be the ones to be snotty about that. I mean,
I don't think
we
so.
had chattel slavery long after England did. They were
Yeah.
doing colonialism, we were doing chattel slavery. It's not, they're not.
Yeah, I don't think US gets to sit here as some beautiful pinnacle of shining integrity.
Yeah. So I guess this is me just venting at all of social media for not having the exact response to the death of Queen Elizabeth that I want to have, which is like, oh, that's a little sad. Let's talk about this now. Why aren't people doing what I want them to do is my question.
It's always your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had as many feelings about it as you have, but I completely understand and respect that you do.
Yeah, I guess I've seen a lot from a lot of different quarters, and I feel like none of it it just seems like another example of like none of this seems productive to me. None of this seems like a none of this seems like it's really looking at and reckoning with either, you know, either the history of this woman or the history of this, the history of British colonialism, which again she sort of represents, fair or not. I think it's at least in part fair because that was her job. So I don't know. It's interesting. And again, the whole thing about I, I couldn't think of a. So I tried to. Maybe you can help me with this, and I'll put you
Maybe
on the
I
spot.
can.
Can you think of a female leader that we like? Like
Ooh.
in the aggregate, maybe even in history,
Ooh.
that we sort of unambiguously, I mean, and I know that's hard because it's hard to it's hard to think of too many male leaders that people unambiguously like, but like in the aggregate that people sort of like more than 50%, like they like 50%, 51% more than they dislike. I was having a really hard time.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. I think any female leaders that you and I might say that we like here in the US, we certainly couldn't say that 50% of the people in the US like them.
Right.
Uh, I was going to say like Cleopatra, but even with Cleopatra, this has been memeified even. She had all these accomplishments. She was a pretty brilliant, like political strategist. And the only thing people think when they hear her name is like, oh my God, so hot.
Right. Right.
So, do they like Cleopatra or do they like thinking about whoever it was that played her in that movie a long time ago?
And Cleopatra as a hot, that's sort of like the modern nicer version of, because I mean for like 2000 years Cleopatra wasn't just hot, she was basically a hot hooker. I mean,
Okay.
she was seducing, she was seducing all these men to get her way and using the
Yeah,
power of her
feminine
sex to,
wiles,
right.
sure.
So
Um,
that was the take for most of
right.
history. So
So
Cleopatra's hot is is actually like a step up.
that's yes. Um, uh, I think Nefertiti also. No, just pretty.
Just pretty.
Um, I'm struggling. I am definitely having a tough time with this. Does does anyone occur to you? There's got to be
No, I
someone, right?
no, I was doing the same thing. I was like Cleopatra, but like
Yeah. But then you go into like, nope, nope, hot. Nefertiti,
yeah.
nope, pretty.
I mean, I think
Okay.
like so what do you like what's your immediate impression if I mention like Queen Elizabeth the First?
I feel like that was another one where people don't like queens.
Okay. Cuz she was the best one I could come up with where like if you asked people now like who, she was the closest I could come up with in my head, thinking that that would be one that people would have in the current time would have a kind of positive impression of.
So Princess Diana, that princess was
Oh, yeah.
basically a title. People like Princess Diana.
True, but she didn't have a job.
Right, that's the thing. That's why I said it was just a title, so we can't really say woman in power.
And and that's something that it was always interesting with it was always interesting with like Hillary Clinton, like if she wasn't if she was quietly like if she was running for something, everybody hated her. If
Yeah.
she was staying quietly at home, she had very positive approval ratings. Or if she was like quietly when she was a senator and she was sort of buried in it and you weren't hearing from her, very positive.
Mm-hmm.
But if she was running for something, suddenly it's like everybody hates Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
So so I think you get that kind of thing with a lot of women too,
Right.
where
Yeah.
like with Princess Diana, like if Princess Diana had decided to run for whatever, I bet we wouldn't feel as positive.
Maybe we wouldn't.
Yeah.
Jeepers creepers. That wow. Yeah. No, I think you've stumped me.
All right. It's
That I
it's
think
it
is more liked than not liked.
yeah, it struck me. I mean, I think people kind of have a fond impression of Queen Victoria, but it's also like, oh, she was fat, she was lazy, oh, she was in mourning for 40 years and she was so moody and blah blah. I don't know that people could tell you. And again, Queen Victoria was in a little different position than Queen Elizabeth II, but she was also someone who didn't have a lot of real power.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it I don't know if that makes it easier or harder. Like you get blamed for stuff you don't have control over. I don't know. But I mean, I think that's, she's another one where people have if I were to guess, like if I were to take a poll, I would guess people don't necessarily have like negative hateful feelings about Queen Victoria, but they have like woman things about her that they don't like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's rough.
So listeners, if you can think of anybody, if you can think of women leaders that anybody likes,
Drop us a line at jimmyspaceway@gmail.com because we want to know. We can't think of any.
yeah, yeah. So
Hey, Ross.
yeah, just threw you for a loop
Are
there.
you
But
on
yes, hello.
are you on time for things?
Um, I am usually on time for things. Yeah, I can get a little stressed out if I'm running late for something, even if it doesn't matter. So I am not the most consistently all the time on time for things, but I am definitely someone who wants to be on time for things.
I am so I come from a background where if you are not early, you're late.
Mm-hmm.
Which these days I do it for appointments and things like that. I always try to be early to appointments because you just never know is there going to be paperwork or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I've always thought that was kind of rude when you're showing up at someone's house to be early because they're not
Mhm.
ready, you know?
Yeah. Right.
So I try to be on time or a little bit late to people's houses for parties and things, just
Sure.
because I know from hosting, like, if I have an extra 10 minutes to just put the dishes exactly where I want them, it's kind of nice.
Right.
Not so bad.
Absolutely.
But I have this article from NPR because sometimes I can be very late for many different reasons, which is not good.
It's because you're
But it's
asleep.
gotta
Let's just be real. But yeah.
okay, there's this sleeping, and let me tell you, the times I have to check the oven and check the cat and check the attic door,
Sure.
it's sometimes it's actually a problem. Like it's not good at all. Like I will find myself getting outside being about to lock the door and I have to ask myself, was the refrigerator shut? What if Nigel gets in the refrigerator? Let me tell you, the refrigerator's always shut.
And cats definitely getting in the refrigerator is definitely something a cat is going to do. I get
But
it.
stuff like that, like there are things that will prevent me from leaving the house for a very long time, and that will lead to me running much later than I wanted to be. But I thought there were a couple of good tips in this article here from NPR. That's 5 tips to help stop you being so late, or at least make you more honest about it.
Sure.
And the first one I think is really good and also good for me to try to keep in mind, maybe to help myself looping around the house, is think of being on time as a way of showing respect.
Okay.
Because that's nice, right? That's
This is going to be one of
nice.
those things. Okay, that is nice. Yes.
It is nice because, especially, and so this one, because I am often late for social things.
Mhm.
I remember somebody asking me because I had a hair appointment and they're like, oh no, are you late to the hairdresser? And I was like, never. She's on a schedule. That could ruin her whole day. Like that could affect her tips and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so it is actually like as like mealy mouthed as that might sound, especially when you're going to an appointment with, for example, your hairdresser. If you're 15 minutes late, that pushes your hairdresser 15 minutes late, which might push the other clients late, which might then make the other clients frustrated. And then your hairdresser doesn't get as good a tip.
Right.
Like that's literally respecting their time. And I've also noticed, you go and you plan to meet someone out for something. It is kind of respectful to try to be on time so that they're not just sitting there for half an hour waiting for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think about how, I try to think about how, the thing that sort of pushes me along sometimes is I think about how like annoyed and stressed I can get when I'm just waiting for someone.
Yeah.
And, I try to think about, and I've, I know how I feel, and I've certainly, I think, I don't think any of us have never put anybody else in that position, but I, Ileana agrees, my dog.
Yes.
He would like to chime in here. But no, I think about how other people, I try to think about how the other person is feeling in that position. And that makes me feel bad and makes me want
Yeah.
to not be late.
Yep. And the last point in this article kind of goes hand in hand with that. Be honest about your tardiness. I know I feel a lot better if I'm waiting for someone. If I'm
That,
waiting for someone and they text me and they say like, "I'm so sorry, I need another half hour."
oh,
So
yeah.
there's the reminder that like if you think you're going to be late, you could always let somebody know.
Yeah, I used to be, and I don't really do it anymore, but I used to definitely be like oh, I'm almost there as I'm like putting on my pants and getting in the car. So, yeah, cuz which does not make it better. Just
No,
like
because then the person's
pretending that you're
expecting you.
right, right. It does not make it better. But it's so appealing to just feel like you can, and then you can like magically just make it happen. But you can't.
Yeah,
So,
no. I I try really, 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 really hard if I'm meeting someone out to be on time so that they're not just sitting there on a bench or like
mm,
sitting there waiting to order.
yeah.
But if I'm just going to someone's house, that's when you're going to get the text from me that's like, running late, leaving in 20,
Yeah.
because but at least I always figure, and same goes for me. If I'm in my house and I'm just waiting for someone, just text me. You'll be there 20 minutes later than you thought. It's fine. I'm in my house, not going anywhere. Um, the second item, we're out of order here, but know that departure time doesn't equal arrival time.
What? Shut up. That's not true. You're lying about that one.
That one did kind of, that headline, I'll admit, still confuses me because the tips are really good. And I used to do this all to get to work on time. I would like pick out my outfit the night before.
Hmm.
I would pack my lunch the night before. I'd do all that stuff. So I guess this weird little headline on this blurb kind of means that you think you're going to depart at a certain time, but your departure time is actually much longer than you
Hmm.
think it is because it's not just your transit time. It's your putting all your things in your bag, making sure the attic door is locked, um, making sure the cat is in the house 10 times. Don't forget to check the stove. Did you leave a candle on? Do you have your phone? Check
Why do you like
again.
candles? Don't like candles.
I like candles at night.
Jesus. Um, no
But so
wonder.
if you do
Just
all that,
self-sabotage is what it is.
but pre-work, I like that. Do you do that? Like if you have to be somewhere the next day, do you pack stuff up the night before?
Sometimes I do. Yeah, I sometimes I do. I am very so I I think this is a neurodivergent type thing, but I have I have a very hard time. I don't know how to explain this. I have a very hard time arranging things in a useful manner such that I can get them and go out of the house. And I always like laugh at the dogs because the dogs even know. Like I'm like, oh, we're gonna do this, and then they kind of like sit there and wait, and they get excited, and then they go, okay, we're gonna wait because this is gonna be a process because you've got 14 different stops to make, and then you have to pee, and then your keys are gonna be over here. Even though I try to keep things in the same place, my keys are going to be over here. My wallet's going to be over here. Oh, I forgot my thing. Oh, I put down my wallet when I went to get my keys. So I have to go back to get my wallet. And this is like a 100% consistent thing. So I usually build an extra time. I mean, that's how I deal with that. I build an extra time whenever I can.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's definitely smart. That's so interesting. Because
And then I have to pee. And then sometimes it takes me so long
yeah,
I have to pee again because then I get
you get
panicked.
nervous.
I get
I do
nervous.
that. Yeah.
And then I think like, what if I don't have a chance to pee again soon? So I should just go pee again.
Yeah. Yeah, this won't surprise you about me. I have if my wallet is not in the place where my wallet is, then my wallet is gone. Like there's no more wallet. It doesn't exist anymore. I'm
Okay, object
pretty
permanence. I get that. Yeah.
consistent. I'm pretty consistent about like there are places for things.
Right. And I have limited places for things, but the thing my toxic trait is I have a couple of different places for things. So things are always in one of like three places.
Yes.
But then you have all the different things, but the things will all be in different places at different times.
Hmm.
So by you do sort of a factorial calculation of like you add up all the things I have to get to successfully leave the house, and it just becomes a whirlwind of running back and forth around the house all the time. And then my poor dogs are just like, okay, he will be done eventually. We will
They're checking their
just
little dog
patiently wait.
watches.
Yep. So,
Aw,
but they know it.
wow. So this third tip here, I guess I do try to do this. It's get comfortable with being early.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you're always late, just tell yourself the appointment's earlier, get there earlier. I truly, even though I can be a late person for social stuff, I truly do not like it on the rare times when people have done the thing like, Heather doesn't get anywhere on time, so tell her it starts at 6 when really it starts at 7.
Mm.
Because every time somebody's tried that with me, they really emphasize, like, you've got to be here at 6. You've got to be here at 6. So, like, I stress and I rush and I show up at like 5:50 and I'm like sweaty and I'm frantic and I'm like, I made it by 6. And they're like, awesome. It doesn't start till 7. I'm like,
That seems mean. I have become, I've gotten to be more of a sitting in my like I'll sit in my car kind of person to and I definitely, I'll build in enough time where, and again, this is not consistent, so I'm not patting myself on the back here because it's definitely not 100% consistent. But what I much prefer to like get there early and sit in my car. And a couple times recently, I've had this where like, I think not going out so much with COVID, it sort of I'm building it in even more time because like I don't know, I don't have anything else to do. I don't have anywhere else to go, so I'm building in so much time that I'm sitting in my car for like 40 minutes, which is kind of embarrassing. And you're like going to park in a different spot so people don't think you're a peeping tom. But you know, I'd still sort of prefer to do that because I can play on my phone or whatever. It's fine. So that's a nice thing about 2022. You can usually kill some time even if you don't have a book or something. So like I will, I'll sit in my car and that's fine. That's no problem.
Yeah, I do remember I had an appointment during the winter, and it seemed like it was going to take a really long time to get there because we'd had a bad snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Turned out pretty much just my street was bad. So I did end up at my appointment a good 40 minutes early. Like you said, I just played on my phone. Didn't matter. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. You can play
And
on your phone.
then the last little tip here is that lateness can be local. And I've definitely experienced that. They say, like, what it means to be on time in Sao Paulo might be different than what it is in San Francisco.
Okay.
And there is definitely that kind of time is more flexible in certain places. And like I said earlier, in certain circumstances.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
whereas I might show up to the doctor's 20 minutes early, if you're having a party and I show up 20 minutes early at your house,
Right.
probably rude. Like that's
Or
probably actually a little rude.
or a lot of times, I mean, I'm never going to get mad at anybody for showing up on time, but you schedule a party at like, 8 or whatever, and someone shows up at 8. It is totally fine,
It's so fine.
but
It's
it's a little weird.
perfectly
I mean, it's
fine.
not with it's like it's not necessary. Like it's not a thing you had to do to get there to be exactly on time. And you might be
Yeah.
the only one there because everybody else is, which is another complication of like the time can be local because I'll do that with parties, assuming I'm ready to go. Sometimes it's like, oh, you get there when you get there, but assuming like, oh, I'm just hanging out waiting to go to this party. Sometimes I'm like, okay, well, if we leave now, we would get there at the start of the party time.
Yes.
That seems unreasonable. So let's like hang out for a few more minutes at least.
Yeah. Yes. So even like they mention here that you might be in a different country, but even like the kind of thing that you're going to,
Right.
time has a couple different meanings. And like I said, I grew up in the kind of family where if you are not early, you're late. So anytime I have a family event, I'm like stressing because if dinner is at 5, dinner is at 5.
Yeah.
Like you had better be pulling in. And the waves of shame that rush over me when I pull in the driveway at 5:02.
Mm.
It was so bad. The last family event I went to go to, I was doing great. I was so on schedule. I was ready to be early, and I had to wait for a train.
Oh.
So I didn't know to build in train time.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
2 minutes late.
oh god. That's depressing. I mean, my family sort of had that, but we also had a lot of um a lot of alcoholism, I guess, is the term for it. So you'd get really inconsistent. I mean, the whole vibe with my family was always like just setting booby traps, like, so like, one day you show up a little late and it's totally fine. It's no big deal whatsoever.
Oh
Whatever.
no.
And another time you show up 5 minutes early and it's like, what you're ruining this thing. So, there's really no, there was really no winning there. Um, so I don't know what my takeaway from that is. But I think the thing you said, I mean, the thing that works for me is I tend to try to think about like, I try to put myself for a moment in the shoes of the other person and and whatever the circumstances are. And is this person, is this annoying or troubling for this person? We just had, we were meeting a friend of ours in Buffalo, which is a little bit of a journey. And we gave ourselves time.
Yeah.
We didn't give ourselves really much extra time, but we sort of knew how long it took to get there. And we were just like, blah, blah, blah. But then there was like a Bills game going on that day.
Yeah.
So we were stuck and we were running about a half an hour late, which is sort of miraculous that it was only that late, because we were really, seemed like we were really getting slowed down. But for a trip that should take no more than an hour, I guess a half an hour late is pretty. But I was
Yeah, I mean, that's like 50% more travel time.
right. And in that case, there was nothing we could do about it at that point. I mean, we should have built in a little extra, we should have built in a little extra cushion, because we were, we, like I said, we gave ourselves sort of the exact amount of time as opposed
Well, I
to
think I know what
inaccurate.
this event was, and if I remember correctly, it was also, as I like to say, the crack of dawn.
No, this was a
Oh,
different thing.
this wasn't the one. Okay.
No, so this was at like noon, so it was fine. But
Oh God,
our
noon.
friend
Who's
who was
up at
waiting,
noon?
like by herself, no real place to sit down. I mean, it was like, it
Oh,
was just so, and in that case, there was nothing really I could do about it at that point, so there's so agonizing over it wasn't really going to do anything. But that's the kind of thing I try to keep in mind, especially if I'm
yeah,
planning ahead. Like, is this the kind of thing where it's going to be really obnoxious and really sucky and stinky for the person that's waiting? Because maybe it's
yeah,
not, in which case, maybe it's not that big a deal. But like I said, if it's a house party, and I'm 20 minutes late or more, it's probably not a big deal. That's probably helpful.
I have definitely had house parties though, where everybody decides like they're going to show up maybe an hour and a quarter after start time,
there,
and
there's
there with that, it's like because all the food is out, and now anything that was hot is room temperature, and anything that's cold is room temperature. There is kind of a sweet spot I feel there, unless you text and say like, "I can't make it till around 9:30. I'm so sorry, but I'll be there."
well, and you can assume that you're going to be sort of the late straggler, and everybody else will be there, and it'll be fine. But then if everybody decides to be the late straggler, then suddenly, yeah, you're like,
Yeah, and if
because
none
I've
of
had that
them
too, where like, is
text,
anyone coming?
I've 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 had that so many times where nobody texts, and it's seriously like an hour after start time. I haven't heard a thing. Every car that goes past, I'm kind of looking out the window, going. Then I kind of check the invite again. Like, did I say tonight? I thought it was New Year's. So I think there's a fine line on the house party too.
True, true. Well, just keep in mind, I think the best advice there for me, my takeaway from that is, you know, think about the other person and how much of a hassle it is for them that you're late. And
Yep,
maybe
and
that will help you. I mean, it gives you something to, other than like a nebulous, like, oh, I should be there on time. Like, why should I be there on time? Does it matter? Why does it matter? I think that's
yeah,
helpful to me.
I think it is because it is something that I stress about sometimes. And then on occasion when I realize, like, no, you can just get there whenever you get there.
Right.
Great. And then there are other times when I'm supposed to stress about it. But I think the takeaway for me is that sometimes I should perhaps consider getting some treatment for my OCD when I can't get out of the house because I have to keep checking the things.
I like it. So, well, we've got a couple more minutes.
Yeah.
You want to wrap up with some censorship?
Oh my gosh, of course, always. Let's censor some things. Go.
All right, go. So you need to shut up. Is That's it. That's all it is.
What? I thought this was the time when you like call out things and I yell that they're censored.
No, I was just going to censor you. Is that fine? That's not
Oh,
okay?
okay.
All right, that's what I'm hearing. No, this was interesting and not surprising and bad. So this is not obviously. I guess if I say the topic is censorship, people aren't going to assume this is going to be a happy news story, right? Um,
Beep.
so a new survey from the School Library Journal, which is a publication that is real, that is a thing. Percent of respondents, so this is school library staff, employees, etc. 97% of respondents who say they weigh the possibility of a challenge when considering the purchase of a book is 97%, and that's just as of recently with the latest challenges. And the a lot of that, and we don't have a lot of time, so I won't go into too much of the detail with this, but the the top three categories they consider are sexual content, profanity or vulgar language, or LGBTQIA plus material. So this gets into and what the, digging down into the study, into the survey, what it gets into a little bit is, I think, an interesting and not surprising phenomenon with the types of the rhetoric we've seen around school library books and what kids are reading and what they're not reading, and oh my god, are they finding out about gay people, is what it's filtered down to is, again, not surprising, this idea that people are stopping to think for a moment. Even if even if a book isn't explicitly banned,
Mm.
um, it is having the effect that it's intended to have. And I think this is probably more the effect that it's intended to have, because legal things can be challenged. We do have a constitution still, so I think it's hard to ban a book forever. But what you can do is make people either scared or
Yeah.
hesitant,
Hmm.
or think twice before they order a book because they don't know if they want to deal with the hassle. And that's, you know, it's not good. It's not necessarily evil. It's sort of human nature. I know some librarians we've read about, and even one or two that I know have talked about how much more of a fraught job that has gotten to be and how much more hassle they deal with. But this was interesting and not surprising, but the fact that there's this increase in the amount of hesitation
Yeah.
that people have when it comes to ordering books for school libraries.
Of course, it doesn't surprise me at all, but as so many things do, it dismays me.
Yeah. There's stuff in the survey too, and in the whole thing, and again, I won't go through the whole thing. There's this contrast with, there's good news about a lot of places where the challenges have been overcome, the books wind up back on the shelf. But again, this shows that it is having the effect, which again, I think is the main intended effect
Yeah.
of making people a little nervous, or making people a little, I don't want to necessarily apply motives to everyone here. Some people just might be like, oh, I don't feel like they should have gay books on the shelf. I'm a
Hmm.
librarian. I
Sure.
don't know
Yeah.
if I don't know if you get to be a librarian by being super into banning books.
I doubt
Maybe
it.
you do.
There's
I don't
probably
know.
a handful, though. Not everybody's a good person.
It's correct. So I don't know. That's interesting and bad, but something to. I feel like we need to keep talking about. Censorship and books on the shelves, and particularly when it comes to, we see that the sort of topmost category, one of the topmost categories, is queer LGBTQIA material,
Yeah.
which is a thing we're kind of trying to wipe out in this country, apparently, and pretend it doesn't exist and hoping it goes away. So I'm not. I love being gay. I'm pretty happy about it. I would be, if being gay was a choice, I would be much gayer, honestly. So, I'm doing good. But
I love exactly how gay you are.
thank you, thank you.
You're
So
the
that's
perfect
all.
level for you.
So that's all we got. Don't censor books, Queen Elizabeth. I don't know, and
And not
don't be
everyone's a
late.
good person.
Don't be late. Those are your takeaways. We'll see you next week on the Sound Tomorrow.
This is Charmin LeCloud, winner by default of Ross and Heather's super secret celebrity Smackdown for the gown, reminding you to always check your Kohl's books and use them before they expire. Otherwise, you'll be sad. The more you know.